Right, so today's video is all about how to get bigger arms in less time. So gone are the days of just arm days. Back in the day, I used to love a fully focused arm day. Biceps, triceps, forearms, massive pump at the end of it. So nowadays I have a lot less time to train, so I haven't got time for a full arm day. So what I have to do is get more exercises that hit your arms maybe in a secondary way rather than necessarily the prime goal of the exercise. So what I want from this video is to give you some ideas on how to get more arm volume into your training, considerations you have to put in place, and then a little workout plan at the end to kind of give you guys some actionable tips to take away from so you can start implementing into your training right away. So I pretty much just started out there with quite an arm focused warm up. So you wouldn't really think a cardio style workout is necessarily a good arm workout. However, using the ski and some dumbbells, I was able to get my back, biceps, chest, triceps and lats all involved within just 3 exercises in a short 10-minute window. So the lats and the triceps are going to be massive movers in the ski erg. You're thinking about using that bent arm, pulling down, getting a good contraction in the lats, and then doing a form of tricep extension to finish off the ski. So what that's going to be doing is doing loads of high volume reps. So if you think back to the days when people used to say, like 20 reps plus is like toning reps. Just imagine that as your toning exercise. Loads of volume, get a load of blood pumped into it, ready for a strength bias session to follow up. Now, what I actually paired the ski with was those dumbbell pendlay rows, which again, I was keeping them quite close to that rib cage, so pulling quite upright rather than normally where I pull my rows towards my hips. So I was putting them quite high, which means my biceps were a massive part of that movement. So I was getting a really good bicep pump and a back pump from those pendlay rows. And then I went into some dumbbell push-ups. Now those dumbbell push-ups, because my elbows are nice and tight to the body, it put a lot of stress all into those triceps and made sure I get a nice big full range of motion. So this is some sneaky arm volume without necessarily being direct arm work itself. So tip number 1 is get some sneaky reps in. Now using the ski, the pendlay row and the tricep push-ups were a really nice way to get some sneaky reps in, some extra arm volume without necessarily doing some direct arm work exactly. So enough of the high volume stuff, let's get into some strength stuff where we can really look to pack on some serious dense muscle. So that was a lovely way of getting 20 reps of some indirect heavy bicep work. So I just did a set every 2 minutes. I did 8 push jerks into 5 weighted chins. So I used a weighted vest just for ease rather than getting in and out of a dip belt, but felt really good. So this is tip number 2. Make sure you're getting some heavy work done directly to your biceps and triceps. So in today's session, I'm going to be getting some heavy weighted chins for some indirect heavy bicep work. And I'm also going to be getting some weighted dips at the end of the session for some indirect tricep dominant work. Weighted dips might be a bit closer to the triceps, a bit more of a direct tricep exercise, but you kind of get what I mean. Big compound exercise that just absolutely annihilates the muscle. Now, obviously you could say the dip is a bit more of a tricep dominant exercise, but the way I'm performing, I'm getting a nice big stretch in there, focusing on getting all the way to my end range, which means I'm getting a lot of pecs and a lot of shoulders as well. So making sure you're getting plenty of that heavy work, that 5 to 8 rep range, really putting some real mass into those secondary muscles, your biceps and your triceps, and definitely your forearms. And because I was using some neutral grip fat dip bars, it meant that I wasn't able to get my hand around it all the way like that. So I had to hook them over like this. So my forearms were getting nicely pumped up as well. So now that my vertical push and pull strength bias exercises are done, we're going to move into my main strength exercise of the day, which is the barbell bench press. I'm building up to a heavy 5 rep max for the day, and they're going to do some back off volume. So I'm going to take you through the bench press now, and then we're going to break down the 3 more points of how you can get more arm work done in less time. Right, so I actually just found my 5RM a little bit faster than I thought. So managed to hit 120 for the day. Now, how I'm focusing on getting this more arm training in point number 3 is making sure I'm doing some heavy isos. Now you might be like, bench press, how's that a heavy isometric exercise? It's not. But what I've done, I've hit 120 for the day. I'm now going to do my back off volume. So I'm going to drop down to 80%. So I've rounded it up to 100 kilos instead of 96. And I'm going to do anywhere between 5 to 10 reps. And I'm going to be pairing that with some dumbbell farmer's carries. So I've got some heavy-ish dumbbells. So I've got some 40 kilo dumbbells. So that's around that 90-pound mark in each hand. And I'm going to be carrying them for 15 meters, kind of as fast as possible. So I'm looking to move with a good bit of intent. So this is how I'm going to get some extra arm work indirectly into my training. Not only are the carries going to be targeting my forearms and my grip, I'm also then going to be training my biceps indirectly as well because of that gripping motion. So yes, it might not be your classic bicep curls, but I will be getting a good bicep stimulus and forearm stimulus in this pairing. So some triceps from the bench, some biceps and forearms with the carries. Let's go. Okay, so done my bench and my carries superset, and arms are feeling nicely pumped up. So my next tricep, so my next 3 exercises are going to be some lat pull downs, some dumbbell Z presses, and some side bends. Now, this isn't supposed to be targeting my arms indirectly. This is supposed to be targeting my shoulders and my back and my obliques. So the reason that I'm telling you this is because this is how I structure my programming. I structure it for me, my clients, the strength formula group programming. Everything that I do, always kind of try and get the most out of the least. So I'm trying to make sure that I'm getting in and out of the gym quite efficiently because I just haven't got that much time. And I know many of my clients haven't got that much time as well. So it's really important that we make sure the exercises that we do get a massive bang for our buck, but they're also progressing us towards our specific goals. Because my specific goals at the moment are to stay as strong as possible in the squat, bench and deadlift and the strict press while I'm prepping for a half Ironman. So they're 2 very opposite goals. So which is why I'm making sure that my training is really efficient and effective so I can get the most out of the least. So let's get into this last tricep, and then I'm going to break down my final 2 points for how to get bigger arms in less time. Right, so let's get into my second last point, and that is finish your session off with some high volume isolation work, utilizing things like dumbbells, cables, bands, whatever you have access to, but something where you can really keep the movement strict and put as much stress through the movement as possible. Now, today's work in particular is finishing off with some weighted dips and then some preacher curls on the bench with the cable machine. Now, weighted dips are on this day for me because I'm looking at a heavy vertical press day. So weighted dips come under that for me. So I've got my overhead, say, tricep cable work and some dumbbell work on other days in my week. So that's where I can really get that, that mind muscle connection, a real good squeeze into my triceps. But using the weighted dips now to finish off my triceps as a whole. So just like I said at the start of the session, I had my weighted chins. So I got my biceps targeted as a secondary muscle. And from here, I'm going to get into my weighted dips, where again, even though they're quite a prime mover in a dip, I'm getting such a large range of motion. I'm getting a lot of pecs and I'm getting a lot of shoulders as well. So I'm not necessarily using these as a tricep dominant exercise, but I'm still getting a good tricep stimulus through them. So let's get into the isolation work, and then I'm going to break down my final point, which is probably the most important point out of everything here, because it's essentially how we execute the exercises. But let's get into the curls and the dips, and we'll get into that last point in a second. Oh, fuck. Oh, that hurt. That was pretty much a good example of kind of what I was talking about with isolation work, because having isolation work there, I was able to take it to failure in a nice, safe way. So throughout the whole session, I've obviously overloaded my biceps with those weighted chin-ups. I've had the carries, and then I just finished them off there with some preacher curls. I was able to really put all the focus and stress into those biceps, because I was able to anchor myself against the bench and use my elbow as the hinge joint that it is, and really put a good bit of connection into that bicep. So before I get into the last point, just a recap on the 4 points so far. So point number 1 was make sure we think beyond just curls and extensions. We want to utilize other exercises that maybe stimulate your biceps and your triceps and your forearms in a secondary fashion, rather than always necessarily targeting them directly. So point number 2 was kind of like carrying on from point number 1, and make sure you utilize compound exercises that are going to hit your bis and tris as a secondary muscle, if not a bit of a primary muscle. So me doing those weighted chins, I had a lot of bicep and forearm activation there. And then here, when I had those dips, I had a lot of tricep stimulus there also. So point number 3, don't forget to do some isometric work for your arms. So doing your things like your carries, your holds, to really target your forearms and your biceps in an indirect way, but you're also getting a massive bang for your buck, because you're also stimulating so many other muscles in your body and also working that aerobic system too. Now, point number 4, make sure you've got your isolation work. If you want to get big arms, bodybuilders are a good example of people that want to grow big arms. They do plenty of direct arm training. Now, for people that might have a little less time and looking to get more bang for your buck, for me, I like to add those kind of exercises at the end of the session if you have time, and then start to utilize some of the other points all within that isolation works. So as part of those curls, I got to include 2 of the other points that I've already mentioned. I got to do a big compound exercise, which was the weighted dips. So I got to absolutely smash my triceps in a big way, but I also got to do some isometric work. When I was failing on those bicep curls, I just held it in that end range just to finish off my muscles as much as I could. So this brings me on to my final point, which is make sure you train your arms through their full range. So what that means is we're going to want to think about training our arms through their shortened position and through their lengthened position, and also through an isometric hold. So you can tell throughout this full session, I've done all of these points. So I'm making sure I'm really hitting my arms in their fullest of ranges. So I've had some lengthened range stimulus where I was in the bottom of my weighted chins. I was getting my biceps having a full stretch there. I also had a lengthened position when I was in the bottom of my dips, and my triceps had the biggest stretch possible there. I then also hit my biceps in their shortened range where I had my elbows up on the bench doing the preacher curls. And then I also got a cheeky little bonus in that exercise where I let them get to their end range, and I did some partials where I focused on just getting them up as high as I can when my muscles has gone to pure fatigue. It's amazing how many extra reps you can still get when you're completely fatigued in that lengthened state. And there have been some studies recently that have shown if you really want to make some massive gains, you want to change your muscles in their lengthened state. And doing things like partials is a really nice way of overloading that position and getting a massive growth stimulus. Now, I hope you got a lot of value out of today's video, and you can take these points that we've been discussing about how to get bigger arms in less time, and you can implement them right now into your own training. Now, if you did like the look of today's session and you think, do you know what, I'd like to train like that, you're looking to get big and strong in less time, then check out my program, the Strength Formulas Big and Strong program. It's a 12-week program, one-off payment, the link is going to be in the description box down below. However, if you're not necessarily looking for a full program, but you want access to my Bigger Arms in Less Time PDF download, click the link in the description, put in your email address there, and I'll send you directly my Bigger Arms in Less Time PDF, where I break down exercises, sets and reps, and give you a little checklist where you can make sure you're hitting your arms so you can get them bigger in less time. So thanks a lot for watching. I really appreciate you. If you did like this video, I'd really appreciate a like on the video and a cheeky subscribe. And I look forward to seeing you in my next video.